Hello, everyone. I'm here to share with you the word of our Lord and Savior, the Zephyrs of Stormvale Castle. And I promise you that this is a perfectly timely video, a great time to release it. It hasn't been like a month since this event occurred. There's no better time to talk about the Zephyrs of Stormvale. So if you haven't been informed, Rofo the Germ recently hosted an excellent little event in Stormvale Castle at, I think it was 28 plus 4 or something. My build was at 25 plus 3 because, yeah. But it was centered around the idea of having builds that mirrored the storm elemental affinity that most of the enemies in Stormvale Castle have, based upon a build by a player named Zephyr from Dark Souls 3 that utilized a lot of windy weapons, and we decided to expand it to lightning and frost and wind and anything that could even be interpreted as storm adjacent. Granted, those were not the only builds that showed up, but the variety was very welcome, and there was a lot of very colorful characters at play. Now, I was a little late to the event myself because I kind of mixed up the dates a little bit, but I did get in 1 or 2 times, and the rest of the time I just kind of attempted to clean out the invadable hosts of Stormvale so that I could just have only their party available. And what you're seeing on screen is my attempt to brutally murder every single host at Stormvale Castle on that day, at least on PS4/5. I would talk a little bit about the build, but to be honest, there's not that much to talk about because it is it is an ice-themed version of every other mage build that I already use. It uses pretty much all of the same tools, except they're all storm-oriented. And I have an excuse to wear the Ice Witch hat Snow Witch hat, because I'm using a lot of frost spells. Through a combination of gear and physic, I have found a way to cast some more Ice Storm at 25 plus 3. And that, in and of itself, was probably my most impressive feat. Needless to say, because of the presence of Dula's Moonblade and just a lot of damage overall, I did kind of consider this to be just a touch more twinked than I usually am. And I really swear it was all in service of being able to cast Zamor Ice Storm, a spell that I probably cast 2 times, maybe total, and I think they're captured in this video. I decided to use Rejection because it seemed like a 4C wind blast kind of spell that I could use. I thought Night Maiden's Mist was like a cloud, so it's like fog. Magic Downpour is like rain, so that makes sense. I just tried to stick with the theme. And Swift Glintstone Shard is like... Swift Glintstone Shard, whatever. No one's gonna stop me from using Swift Glintstone Shard. No, don't come for me for my Swift Glintstone Shard. Anyway, this is False Zephyr Gail. She is a Zephyr in name only, pretty much. The very minor lore write-up I gave her was that she was an infiltrator of the Zephyrs for her own purposes, and there is a hint in her gear what her true nature, her true identity is, at least, in terms of like what her title would be outside of a Zephyr. But I'm not going to disclose it because maybe I'll revisit it one day. It's not like a huge mystery and it's not like a huge deal. But I thought it was fun to be like a Zephyr that's really just in it for themselves and not really a part of the entire thing, but just kind of emulates the power of a Zephyr or like a storm combatant because they have the spells that make it seem like they have that power. I don't usually do lore. This is all not really my thing. So you're just going to kind of have to live with it. In essence, it's an ice mage. It is just the iciest, frostiest mage I've ever seen. I saw some other people attempt frost mage, and frankly, I was simply not impressed. No offense if you actually did use ice mage. I did attempt, very much so, to stick with my tradition of keeping my wizards almost entirely magic focused. And this was achievable for some reason. I very rarely ran out of FP. I really don't know how that happened, because I I had very high cost spells in terms of using a Duela's Moonblade, but like, I guess Glintstone Ice Crag is cheap and it does a lot of damage. And I was relying on the Frostbite to do most of that. I don't know. It was never an issue, which was surprising to me. Or if it was an issue, I didn't really care. I'm pretty sure I had Starlight Shards on standby, even if it did become an issue. And if I used one here, you're not going to judge me. I'm sorry. I'm using only spells. I'm not allowing any judgment from people that don't play this way. I will not be judged. I will be my own person, and you will live with the fact that I use Starlight Shards to cast some spells. I'm sorry. The FP system unto itself is fine, but the whole splitting your Cerulean and Crimson tiers is still just not fair and bullshit for the way I like to play in Invasions, because it cuts everything in half, and it just disproportionately disadvantages people that like to engage in the magic system. In essence, don't judge me for using Starlight Shards. I have no physical stats. I never have any endurance. I'm purely doing damage with spells. This was not possible very often in other titles, simply because you had limited casts, or you had, Ashen Estus that you had to attune, and you couldn't do enough burst damage to kill someone. The only times you could do it were when the spell damage was so ridiculously high that it didn't matter that you had limited casts, or you had, infinite casts by virtue of infinite mana regeneration, like in Demon Souls, where you could just pop Spice whenever you wanted. Except that game also kind of struggled with having too much spell damage in general. I don't know what the justification for Ambush Shard was. I think the justification was, I really wanted to use it, so I attuned it, and I took it into an invasion anyway. And I also used the lore of the character that she was just kind of emulating a Zephyr's skills to justify using basically any non-specifically stormy spell, which wouldn't have really given her away anyway, because she, has a staff. I don't know. Don't come for me over this. Don't pretend like I actually thought this through. The idea was Ice Witch. The idea was Frostbite Magician. It didn't go any further than that. The building process started and ended with, can I cast Zamorar's Ice Storm? And then I barely used it because it's just a garbage spell. It's a good spell when you can actually get it off, but you kind of have to have max cast speed for that to be feasible. And even then, it's not really. It doesn't last very long either, so you're almost always better off casting the Frost Cloud or Night Maiden's Mist or something. And I liked to combine them together sometimes to create an impenetrable zone of death that would just kill you. Or not kill you, just deal sustained damage over time and then frostbite you, which makes you take 20% more damage in the cloud anyway. Actually, I'm not entirely sure if that's true. But it would make them take 20% extra more damage from my already obscenely high magic damage on my spells. Let's take a moment to appreciate just how obscenely strong the Meteorite Staff is at every int level that is from, 18 to, I think, 42 or something. The Meteorite Staff. Defining the mage meta from 18 int to 42 int. Since 2022. Look, I used some more Ice Storm. It didn't hit anyone, but I used it. I think I saw Scott Jund doing, the Terra Magicus and Ambush Shard pokey video, and I was like, yeah, I really want to do that. And then I did it, and it's just in this video for some reason. Do you see just how ridiculously strong a Duela's is? I'm doing over half their health. Granted, they don't have enough health, but I'm doing too much damage. I didn't really have any qualms with doing that much damage because it costs so much or something. I don't know. A duelist is reactable. A duelist is kind of fair. Kind of fair. It used to be not so fair. Now it's much more fair. Set up your Night Maiden's Mist early. Set it up often. Early and often. If you miss, try and get it to go out just as far as it can go, because oftentimes you can push people back into it, and then they just die because it's in a position where they forgot about it. Same logic applies to any spell that you cast and don't have to think about for however long before it actually does damage. This invasion here is against the wonderful Draco Kimura, who I encountered during the event as I was attempting to, fight the streamer. And it ends the way almost every fight I have against someone I know ends, in me being overzealous and finishing them off with a really cheap, fast option, I'm sure. There is a debate between using Night Maiden's Mist and the Frost Cloud, because you yourself can stand in the Frost Cloud without taking any damage. But Night Maiden's Mist is very effective at what it does, and it can stick to ceilings, and you can use it to corner check through walls. You can use it to smoke people out. It's just a very good tool all around. It does a lot of very useful things for the invader-minded. It's the "you cannot stand here now" spell, and if you fully charge it, it's a massive zone. It's so much better than Pestilent Mist ever was. And here we are now, using it, ineffectively. But for every instance that someone uses Night Maiden's Mist intelligently, I will use it unintelligently at least 5 times. I do have a Frost Rapier that I take out whenever I'm low on FP. I think this is one of the few clips where I do use it. Otherwise, I usually killed them with spells before it was ever an issue. Which is fundamentally my ethos doing the caster thing, is if I can't kill them before I run out of FP, then I wasn't doing very well, or the build is bad, or something, bad player. Of course, you can pump out significantly higher amounts of damage with many Ashes of War for a far lower cost. So I'm not terribly opposed to just kind of blowing my FP on a kill. Yet another excellent reason why nobody can come for me for using Starlight Shards. I am not popping the shards to Bloodhound Step Away infinitely. I am popping the shards so that I can actually access my moveset. I'm justifying this for no reason whatsoever, because I have not yet used a Starlight Shard in this video, I don't think. I don't think I use a Starlight Shard in any of these. It's just ideologically. I'm opposed to using Starlight Shards below the, 72, the rune level 72-ish range, because, do you really need to do anything besides just show up and fight anywhere below that? Exceptions being to the overleveled and, the egregious examples that we all know about and have all seen and have all experienced ourselves. I don't have to go over it. It's been done to death, back and forth, and to and fro, and what have you. Goodness, all of these clips are so very old. I've moved on from the very low-level invading, because it was a little too easy, or it was a little too ridiculous, attempting to combat a certain subset of strategies. So I've been invading at higher levels recently. I have thusly retired using Gail for the foreseeable future, only because I don't have any incentive to use her. The X-Mage was fun, but it was just limited, overbearing. It certainly wasn't my favorite or most creative moment. I think it was a flop, if I'm being frank. It's a flop of creativity. It does hit all of the criteria for being a Zephyr. It has white hair. It has a storm-based moveset. it has Zephyr in the name, but in terms of just like raw build creativity, it's really not. It's not showing up. Halfway through playing the invasions, I was just like, I really wish I weren't doing this right now. I just really didn't like. I didn't like how repetitive it felt. There wasn't a whole lot of diversity of strategy. I didn't really have to do a lot of problem solving. I just kind of had to kite well and not get one shot by things, which could happen, you know. It always could. I just didn't encounter many one-shotters in the process of playing Gail. Lots of overlevels. Don't make no mistake, there were overlevels, but they were at least seemingly downscaled. Oh my god, I actually cast some more Ice Storm again. And then immediately returned to spamming Swift Glintstone Shards. As for the physic, it was 10 plus intelligence, 25% plus magic damage. Magic damage might not have been entirely necessary, but it was a habit. Like, you're making an int mage. You might as well take the 25% extra damage. And all of the ice spells that do damage, I'm pretty sure just do magic damage anyway. Oh look, it's one of the actual verifiable rage quit DCs. It used to be such a treat in Dark Souls 3 because you almost always knew that it was because someone was rage quitting, but now the connections are just so shit that it could happen anytime, and you would never know if it was a rage quit or not. Now you have to have situational contextuality to determine whether or not it was a rage quit. Were you winning, or were you being annoying? Maybe they rage quit on you. The concept of the rage quit is frankly hilarious. It never hasn't been. The temper tantrum of, I'm going to turn off the game now because I am about to experience a loss. The comedy of that never fails to amuse me. And Souls games, more than any other game, are the titles where people are less willing to take a loss than any other multiplayer format. I play fighting games, and actually, I take that back. If you play Slippy and Melee long enough, you will realize that the rage quit is quick and swift and merciless. It happens when you expect it to, and when you least expect it to. What am I talking about? I have no fucking idea. Basically, sometimes you'll get a grab in a fighting game, and that person will immediately quit out because they lost one interaction. Which, in hindsight, now that I think about it, is significantly more severe than anything you would have seen in Souls. Like, you actually have to kill a phantom, usually, before you get a rage quit. More often than not, you have to kill two. Oh, this is an excellent clip to reveal the power of Ambush Shard, I'm fairly certain. You can use it to great effect to hit people that are far away from you because it just teleports the projectile to them, which is very handy. Granted, you can't do it through walls, but if you have even, like, a tiny bit of line of sight, you can plink people with it. And that is handy. Another thing is that not a lot of people know about is that there's a glitchy interaction with the talisman that increases the range of arrows and bows. You can use that and equip that, and it'll increase the range of your ambush shard that it can teleport to, because it does have, like, a max range. And you can bypass that very specific limitation by equipping the arrow boosting talisman. Not the damage increasing one, the range increasing one. That's the one you want. So if you're going to bother to attune ambush shard, which I recommend doing every now and again, you might as well have that talisman on you as well to just hot swap to. And then you can go ahead and plink people from very far away. Here we have double Night Maiden's Mist doing a hilarious amount of damage to the host and killing them in like 4 seconds. And remember that is like percentage-based damage. So it probably would have killed them in like 8 if they had just stood in one of them. It's a good spell. One time I had a group of people standing on the floor above me in Leyendell, and I threw Night Maiden's Mist at the ceiling, and it showed me where they were, so I was able to kind of counter with that information. And since you can just pick it up and move it, I could just keep rediscovering their position by just changing where it was on the ceiling, because it would reach up through the floor above. The utility that you can get out of a lot of spells in this game is extremely understated. You kind of have to be thinking in spatial terms a lot of the time, because you can gain a lot of information from the spells you're casting without even realizing it. For example, if you have line of sight on someone for just a moment and you cast the fully charged magic glint blade, it will point to where they are even if they move behind a wall, which you can use to gain information. And if you have spells that hit through a wall, like, say, Cannon of Haima, you can just throw it where the glint blade is pointing and have a chance at hitting them through that wall. I think I showcased that in, like, a video at some point. I don't remember. But yeah, lots of little things you can do to gain information relatively cheaply. And if you have any interesting strategies like that, utility-based uses for offensive spells, please let me know. I am always looking to expand my toolkit. I love trying new things. I would love to have it at my disposal in the event that I think I can use it. And I did have another Zephyr character that I used called Zephyr, who was a very basic lightning dex build. I didn't really have to change very much from my basic dex setup at 25 plus 3. I really just put lightning on a straight sword here, and I put the wind parry on, and I went to town, and that was pretty much it. I changed the hair color to white, and I used probably just like the lightning damage up tier and the second chance tier. The lightning damage up tier is just fantastic. Put that in your physic on a dex build. It's not that much damage because it's split between physical and lightning, but it's just enough that it's noticeable and it's very appreciated. And if you do that with something like Lightning Slash, where you can actually increase the lightning damage of your sword by a flat amount, then I recommend using it even more, because then you're getting even more bang for your buck. We're a traditionalist here. We don't know what those fan blades are. We don't use those fan daggers. I don't have anything really special to say about this build either, because it is, once again, very basic. But I am one to rigidly stand behind the basics, because the basics are the foundation upon which you build every strategy. As long as you have poking options, you have burst damage options, you have defensive options, movement options, chip damage tools, ranged options, you'll be set. You just have to have like a plethora of strategies that are effective enough to function and fit the niche that they are designed to fulfill. And you can usually, in 95% of situations, bar certain strategies of which there is a subset that cannot be truly beaten by wits alone, you can prosper. You will be successful. I mean, I can't guarantee your success, but I can pretend like I can. I am not responsible nor liable for your success. You are. And I hope that is more empowering than disdainful. I rarely use Lightning Slash to actually attack people. I really just like it to buff my weapon. And that was one of the rare instances where I did manage to hit someone. We will end it there on a Greta Pay running R2, and I wish you all a happy Elden Ring. Oh god. And a fine Elden Ring to you! Take care, everyone.